We are jumping into our week 2 of our Advent series, and so today we're talking all about peace. We're looking at it again. I'm so sorry. What do you need? I got it. It's green. Check, test. Can you hear me online? No. Hey, yes. Thank you guys. This is good. I don't mind yelling. Maybe it's better so you guys don't have to hear it. No, we're going to talk today all about God's peace. What did peace look like to God's people in the Old Testament? And then how does that apply for us? How can we have peace all throughout the day? Like I said, this is week 2 of our Advent series. So Advent is a traditional 4 weeks, the 4 Sundays before Christmas, where you celebrate in anticipation, expecting, looking forward to the birth of Jesus Christ as our Savior. So churches all across the globe, these 4 Sundays are preparing themselves to look at Jesus. And we're looking at 4 traditional characteristics. It was hope last week, it's peace this week, it's going to be joy next week, and then love that last 4th week, the last Sunday before Christmas. And we're taking a look through the Old Testament. What do these words mean? What do these concepts mean? And then with an eye toward today, well, what does that look like for us today? So now we're in week 2, peace. You like that? Or it's like peace, but it's also week 2. It's clever. When I was prepping, I was like, man, that is good. And that's like the Christmas, season tradition. I didn't even plan that. All right. When we think about peace, what comes to mind? Right? For me, if I'm shutting my eyes to think about peace, I think I'm somewhere up in the mountains. There's a mountain lake. There's beautiful, gorgeous backgrounds. There's no one else, right? No other hikers disturbing anything. And the lake is just completely clear, right? Like no disturbances, I think, comes to mind when I think of like peace, right? Like, everything's in its rightful place. But I think also peace can involve people, right? It can involve things happening. And in that scenario, I picture like a summer barbecue where I'm just hanging out with friends. Not friends that I'm trying to be someone in front of, like people that know me, I know them. I'm not, there's no weird social dynamics. The kids are in the pool, someone's throwing a football. We've got like steaks on the grill, not just hamburgers and hot dogs, beautiful weather, and you're just like relaxing, and just like, to me, that's like peace when everything's working well. There's no concerns, and it's just enjoyable, is peace. So we're going to take a look at, well, what does a biblical perspective of peace look like? And I hope you can hopefully picture what peace is in your mind as well, but we're going to anchor it to the Word. Last week, I talked about how I don't like when pastors throw up definitions and then they use that as like the starting point, and then I did it because of hope, and I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page. We aren't going to do that this week, so learn from your mistakes, right? No, we're just going to dive right in to what the Bible says, and particularly a specific Hebrew word called shalom. Last week we looked at there's kind of 2 separate words in Hebrew that can both mean hope, but then they can also be translated as wait. So we had this waiting and hoping kind of theme. And with peace, there's really just one word in Hebrew, at least in the Hebrew Bible, that describes peace, and that's this word shalom. But the thing with shalom is that it's multifaceted. It's not quite so simple. It's not just translated as like our English peace. So there's many different applications. Here's just a few of them, just completeness, soundness, welfare, peace. But then there's a lot, like you read and you can see that walls can be described as having shalom, meaning that they were completed, in addition to kind of this inner peace that we're talking about, or free from conflict. So we're going to look a little bit into it. But peace is always positive. It's always a good thing. It's when you say go in peace, it's like may you have good welfare. It's like be blessed is kind of that expression. So you sometimes see that in the Bible, or even in the Aaronic blessing in Numbers chapter 6. Sometimes we say that here at the very end. It says, "May the Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace." That's in a general blessing. Give you welfare. Be blessed. Is that sense of peace? As opposed to going through a bunch of different passages and trying to further understand all these different facets of peace, I want to look at it from a different perspective, because oftentimes in the Bible, when you read about peace, you can see it's the absence of something. There was something else that there no longer is, and therefore you have peace. And so I want to just look at really quick, just 4 different things that we see that kind of steal peace, where if these things are present, you don't have peace. But when these things are removed, then you have a state of peace. Now, we'll go through these really quickly. I'll have them all up on the screen, but feel free if you want to work your thumbs out to go read along with me. All right, the first one is conflict. And this is probably what we think of, peace being the opposite of war. I just have Judges 8:28 as an example. This is all over the Old Testament where we have peace in a sense of, well, there's no more conflict. Judges 8:28 says, "Thus Midian was subdued before the Israelites and did not raise its head again. During Gideon's lifetime, the land had peace 40 years." So Gideon was a judge, which is like a ruler that God raised up in order to provide protection for his people from their enemies. And we can see that peace in this case meant no fighting, at least with Midian. So peace can mean an absence of conflict. All right, another one that we see as an example in the Bible. One thing that can steal our peace is insecurity. And Isaiah 32:18 talks about this. It says, "My people will live in peaceful dwelling places, in secure homes, in undisturbed places of rest." And so in this case, we're looking probably again at physical security, but if we're looking at our life, what are those things that steal our peace? Well, there's that internal insecurity too, the feeling that we aren't quite good enough, or, like we lack confidence that what we're doing is truly what we're supposed to do, whether it's at work, feeling, I just got to get one more email out, I need to make sure that I'm there on time. I didn't quite do everything I'm supposed to. If it's as a parent, right, or as a friend or a spouse where you feel like, I don't know if I'm quite giving enough time for my kids, or I'm not loving them in the right way. We carry with us these insecurities throughout our life, and where there's insecurity, there is no peace. All right, here's another one. Fear, right? This is a big one. If you have fear, there's no peace. Leviticus 26:6 illustrates this one. Leviticus is the law, and God is essentially saying, if you follow my laws, if you follow my way of righteousness, here's what will happen. I will grant peace in the land, and you will lie down, and no one will make you afraid. I will remove wild beasts from the land, and the sword will not pass through your country. So right here, the fears of wild animals, that's probably not our fear. Well, it probably is our fear. We're probably all afraid of wild animals, but practically, there's other things that we fear, right? Anything. It's fear that our bank account's going to go to zero, right? Or, look around the world and just fear that our way of life is going to be changed in some way or another. If we're living our life constantly looking over our shoulder, making sure that things are there, there's no peace, right? Like the peace that God wants to provide is where you lie down and no one will make you afraid. So fear also steals peace. Then the last one that I think I didn't expect to find when I was looking through this is envy. In Proverbs 14:30, there's, illustrates it. Let's read it. Oh my goodness. A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. So this is a traditional, like Hebrew poetry, like a little couplet where you have a contrast from one statement to the next. And we see a heart at peace is contrasted with envy. And you see the heart at peace gives life, but envy rots the bones. And if you think about it, if you are envious, right? So I'm hanging out at that grill out with all my friends at peace, and someone rolls up in a really nice car, and I say, ooh, I want that car. Like all of a sudden I've lost my peace. Like now I'm thinking about how I lack what I don't have, and I'm no longer able to enjoy that level of peace. When someone starts talking, they got promoted at work, or that their job is just really good, they really enjoy it, and I'm like, I really enjoy my job, but you get my point, right? And I start feeling like, I want that. And so these 4 things you see throughout the Bible, and there's other things too, but I think a lot of them can fit into these 4 categories. Peace is delicate, it's fragile, it's like a candle, and if any little wind rushes by it of conflict, insecurity, fear, there's your peace, it's gone. And you have to fight for it. You have to like a flame, you got to kind of protect it, in order that you can have peace. And I think throughout our life, we seek that peace. So if we have conflict, we will either mediate that conflict, or more likely we'll hide from that conflict, or we'll escalate the conflict so the other person backs off. We can't live in a constant state of conflict with others, whether it's interpersonally or whether it's just more like a balance of home work balance, life balance. If you feel like there's always conflict, there is no peace. Right? Same thing, insecurity. We will do so many things to feel secure about who we are. We'll put up more of our diplomas on the wall. We'll gain more accolades, or we'll buy bigger things that show us that, yes, look, see, I am important. I have arrived. I am good enough. I am who I'm supposed to be. Same thing with fear. Generally, we hide from our fears, right? We can face them, or we say, you know what, if I'm afraid of heights, I'm just going to avoid anything where I've got to look down like 3 stories or more. You know, it's like we have ways of keeping our peace, and we either avoid these things or we've got to defend it. Envy, same thing. I mean, we'll keep thinking about it. We either deal with our envy or we'll get something that allows us to feel like, okay, good, now I've got that too, right? And it's a forever chase, but never finding that rest, that peace. And so peace is fragile. We need to defend against these things. And if you're constantly fighting, you don't get to enjoy it. Peace is only enjoyed if someone else protects it. Think about it. If you're asleep at night and you wake up for every little sound that happens, what was that? I'll go check, right? And you go down, you are not at peace, right? But perhaps your kids in the other room are at peace. Why? Because you are protecting it. Like back in Wisconsin, we owned a house, and it had a separate garage from the house, right? So you like go in the garage, then you have to go out of the garage and like walk to the front door and go in. Our garage had a separate door that went outside, and we left that unlocked one night. I mean, it's way more than one night. But one night we realized we left it unlocked because when we went in the next morning, our car had been opened up. We also leave our cars unlocked in the garage. And papers were everywhere, like our glove box had been gone through, and someone's fake ring was taken. Like we don't have real valuables in our car. But that shook us. Like when you realize, like, oh, in the middle of the night, there are people trying doors in our neighborhood. Like that's like, whoa, like well, I thought we were cool. And so it was months maybe, right? Like every single noise at night, I'm going getting a drink of water, looking out the curtains, you know, and nope. What about the front? Nope. You know, and like I didn't have peace. But contrast that with when we were living on Denver Seminary's campus. I was one of the on-call security guards, where Denver Seminary had a security system, right? And there was a company that would watch 24/7, or they'd be alerted if there's any movement in the building. And so only if there's movement would they call me, and then I'd say, okay, cool, I'll check it out and go. I could sleep at night because I knew someone else was keeping that peace, right? Someone else was protecting that peace. And if something were to happen, they could take care of it, or whoever was on call, they would take care of it. So everyone on campus knew we had this security. That's how I view peace being. It's something that someone has to protect so that we can all benefit from it. But if we're the ones running around trying to keep our own peace, trying to decrease the fear, the conflict, the envy, the insecurities, we'll never actually make it. We'll never actually rest in peace because we're the one constantly having to block. And I feel like this is what our world is looking for. We're constantly trying to bat away fear, constantly trying to bat away our insecurities, their envies, the conflicts that come up. And we're hoping to get a little piece of peace that we can hold on to, and then it's off to the next. And it's like this chasing, this hamster wheel where we're constantly fighting for our own peace. The fun thing, the great thing, the relieving thing about the Bible is that God is that for us. God is our protector of peace. And so when you read through, all these things hit us, but we have a God who has set up protection that we can enter into that peace. I want to read Isaiah 26, 1 through 4, and it provides a brilliant illustration for what this looks like. In that day, this song will be sung in the land of Judah. We have a strong city. God makes salvation its walls and ramparts. Open the gates that the righteous nation may enter, the nation that keeps faith. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord himself is the rock eternal. I just love this picture that it's painting of what does this look like to have a protector of peace, right? It says, you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast. Why? Well, back, it talked about we have a strong city with salvation as its walls and ramparts, and the gates are opened, right? And so I view it, right, like I'm back in the Middle Ages, and remember feudalism? Do you remember learning about that, right? Where there's like the local lord who's got the land, he's got the money, he's got the military, right? He's got his knights in shining armor. Well, if you're the peasant, you're the serf, you want to live close to the castle and you work your land there because he will provide protection for you. Like I view it like God has this strong city and like he's built it up with his salvation and he's not closed it off. He wants to open the gates so that those who trust in him can come in. He wants us to experience his peace. He has already won it with his military, right? It's only our decision if we want to come in and accept it. So how do we gain this peace then? How do we grab hold of it, experience it? Well, it says the righteous nation may enter, the nation that keeps faith, those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. We can gain this peace if we trust in God. If we willingly say, I will no longer protect my own peace. I will no longer pat away the conflict, the fears, the insecurities, the envies in my life. I want to rest in your peace. And what does trust look like? It looks like righteousness. There's a little further in Isaiah, there's a phrase that says the fruit of righteousness is peace. If we live according to God's plans, we experience peace. But that also demonstrates that we're trusting in him. When we say, I have all these fears, I have all these insecurities, how do I get rid of them? And we say, well, I don't know, but I trust in you. What that looks like is saying, I will live according to your plan. However you want, whatever you're teaching me, whatever you're guiding me, I will follow in those steps. And so I think it does several things. It helps us get in the right perspective so that maybe those fears, those insecurities are no longer as important. Our situation can change because of our righteousness. If we live loving others, we probably have less conflict. So just living according to God's will brings us more peace. And then God intervenes in our lives. That he will actually block some of these fears, these insecurities, conflicts, envies, whatever else. And he will provide us with peace. He already has. He just wants us to come in and enter in and be close. And so I view myself as one of those feudal serfs in the kingdom where I'm working my own field, and I get to decide, do I want to live far away from God, kind of doing my own thing? Because in feudalism, you'd only get protection if you gave a tax, right? Like you'd have to give a portion of your money, your crops, or something to this local lord. What God requires is our loyalty, that we would follow him, that we would submit and say, you know what, I will follow your ways. But if we want to make our own little kingdom and do our own little plot of land and follow our own rules, that's fine. But we also have to provide our own protection. Like there's no guaranteed peace over here. It's just as hard as I can work for it. But there is peace if you enter the gates that he has for us. And so that's where we set aside, okay, I give up my right to protect myself. I give up my right to make my own laws, and I will pledge allegiance and loyalty to you and you alone. That's what it looks like to follow God. And so God is our protector of peace. He's that local lord, that ruler, that chieftain, the captain of peace. What I like is there's a word in Hebrew that contains these titles. Someone that's got some authority, some respect, and it's called Sar. It's a very simple word, and this word, just like shalom, can be used in many different areas. But people think that there's a lot of different words that were influenced by this Hebrew word, like the Russian czar, right? Like the ruler of Russia, or even Caesar, like the Caesar, right? Like the ruler of the Roman Empire, they think has roots in this word Sar, or even our word sir today, which connotates or connotes the respect that you want to provide someone. God is our Sar of peace. He's that one that is going to protect us, kind of the ruler that we have. And there is a Sar of peace in the Bible too. It's a very famous passage that, again, churches around the globe are probably reading this morning. I want to read it to you and see if you recognize it. This also in Isaiah, which was looking forward to the true Sar of peace. This is Isaiah 9, verse 6. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Sar Shalom, our Prince of Peace. And the people, God's people, had this prophecy looking forward. One day, it would not be a metaphor. It would not be an illustration, that we could enter into these gates and we could experience peace that God has already won. Like, there actually would be someone who would be the wonderful counselor, the mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, the Sar Shalom, who establishes a kingdom that we can physically enter in and experience whole peace. That person is Jesus. And he came 2,000 years ago, and he started that kingdom, but he didn't finish that kingdom. You see, this prophecy looked into the future and couldn't see that there's two separate comings of Jesus, one to start the kingdom and one to finish, finalize that kingdom. We live in that cross-section, right in the middle, where we can experience some of this peace, everything that applies to these Old Testament people, God's people in the Old Testament, that God is our protector peace, that we can enter into his peace through our trust. We demonstrate our trust by living righteously according to his will. Those things all apply to us. But we also enter into this experience of waiting, that one day it's not just a metaphor, that we can actually enter into a kingdom that has peace on all sides, where there's no conflict. There's no more insecurity. There's no more fear. There's no more envy, but rather we're at that barbecue and we're just hanging out and it's good. And we're enjoying this peace that God has already won through his salvation. That's how we enter in to this Advent season where we look and wait expectantly for Christ to come back and make this happen. But our experience is different. I'm reminded of a grill out that I put on maybe 3 years ago at my previous church. I was doing an event for young adults. And we picked a day, and we said, cool, we'll grill out in the park. We'll bring some Frisbees. It'll be fun. And, it's like at the park with those grills where you got to bring the charcoal. It's like just a metal box. It's like you bring the matches, you bring the charcoal, you bring the meat, and it's uncovered. It was cold that day. It was also starting to rain a little bit, and it was very windy. It was not pleasant. It was not enjoyable. But we said, we're doing it. We're meeting. And so we tried to get this thing lit, and it wouldn't stay lit. And so literally what we had to do is make like a little huddle around this poor little box of metal in the middle and like block the wind and try to light it on. And then we tried to put like tin foil over just to like get these things warm enough, because like it was cold out. So like, we were just having a terrible time just trying to grill, and we're trying to run around just so we don't freeze to death. And it was, that to me felt like what our attempts at peace are like. It's like, it's kind of like a grill out, but that's like not what I had in mind. Like, that's not the peace I was looking for. And that, honestly, that's the experience of everyone, us and everyone outside, right? Like, we are all going through this life kind of like, but was it supposed to be like this? Like I felt like life is maybe like there should be better paths to walk on. But what's our role then as the church? Our role is to be those people standing side by side and blocking that wind for them, to allow them to experience a little bit of peace, a little bit of what it could look like in the future. That's the role of the church. And in Advent season, let's be reminded that we are waiting expectantly for Christ to come in the future, but we already know what that future looks like, and we can show the world what that is. Just a little bit, so they can say, wait, this is good. This is good. I want that. And so I want us all to be encouraged. When you feel this week that there's insecurity, fear, envy, conflict creeping in, step back and say, Lord, I trust in you as my protector of peace. But let's also look to each other. How can we reduce conflict amongst ourselves and people out there? How can we help encourage people in their insecurity? How can we help people reduce their fears, going alongside with them through it? How can we help people not have envy? How can we help people see a little sliver of peace, real peace? How can we bring that to others? That's our role as Christians, as the church, as we're caught between a kingdom that's already started but not quite yet finished. I want to leave you guys with 3 questions that you guys can think on, whether it's in a community group, whether it's at the dinner table, whether you're just calling with someone, for how do we apply this to our particular situation. First of all, what is trying to steal my peace? Apply that to yourself. Maybe it's not one of those 4 things that we had the Bible passages for. What is trying to steal your peace in your current life? The second one, how can I trust God and experience his peace? I mean, I wish there was a silver bullet answer. We just say these 4 words, and then we just have this deep sense of peace, or we just do this one dance, and then all of a sudden, I feel peace, and I'm back to normal. What is it? What does it look like to trust God? It's simple, and yet we have to be close to him. He has the peace. He has the umbrella of peace that we have to stand under. What does that look like in your life? Or how do we respond in righteousness, right? Living according to his plan to demonstrate that we trust him. And then the last one, how can I bring peace to those around me? We have to be watching and seeing what are those things that are stealing their peace? How can I come and just block the wind so that they can get a little bit and see it? Because one day, we're going to get to go to a really good grill out with God up in heaven, steaks on the grill, no hamburgers or hot dogs. There's going to be beautiful weather. Nice and sunny, no wind. It's not going to be cold. You can do whatever you want, no rain. And that's the hope that we have, that we will experience a full peace with God when he comes and establishes his kingdom. And so that motivates us, and that gives us the vision of what we can try to create little bits of here on earth. Would you pray with me, please? Dear God, we thank you that you are our protector of peace. You are our Sar Shalom. We humbly submit to you. We want to plant our fields so close to you, God. We want to receive your protection, and we are loyal to you. We pledge that we will follow you and you alone. I pray that you encourage us, Lord, when anything tries to steal our peace. I pray that you would remind us that we don't have to try and strive to create that peace, to protect that peace, but that we're reminded that you have already done this and that you want to offer and extend your peace to us. We thank you that this Sar Shalom is real and it's Jesus, and that you came and you started the kingdom and you showed what it would look like in a little bit. And we long for the day that you will come back and you will make everything right, everything perfect, where we can live together in perfect peace without conflict or insecurity, without fear and without envy. We hold on to that hope, Lord, and we ask that you would work in our lives in order that we could see those little glimpses of peace even as we live now. Then give us that strength and that encouragement to take your peace out to the world so that they also might know a little bit of who you are and what you're doing with this world, so that they might have hope, they might share, they might choose to build their fields close to your city walls as well. We pray all these things, Lord, in your Son's name. Amen.